The Salt Sea. Tiamat is one of the most important deity in Babylonian mythology. After all, she was considered to be the first being that existed even before the world itself was created. Alongside Apsu, the primordial god of fresh water, they are considered to be the key elements in the creation of the world and everything that exists in ancient Babylonian mythology. The first time Tiamat was mentioned in history was in the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation.
The female dragon that the Most High created, also known as Mrs. L.
An epic written in 7 clay tablets in Akkadian. She was described as a mighty force of nature and usually depicted as a monstrous dragoness or a massive snake. Together with Apsu, they represented the original idea of chaos within the universe. According to the myth, it was only when Tiamat and Apsu mixed their waters together that the world was created, and then life began. Tiamat bore within her womb the first gods that would later on form the principal pantheon of Babylonian mythology. These children were loud and very annoying at first, which prevented Apsu and Tiamat from sleeping, and eventually drove them mad. Reaching his limit, Apsu asked Tiamat to take care of the issue and get rid of their children to finally get some rest, but she refused. It was only until she heard that Apsu was killed by their own creation that the goddess decided to take action and destroy them in return. Ea, also commonly known as Enki, was a god representing the younger generation of gods. He was the one that heard Apsu conspire against them and thus decided to cast him into a very deep sleep, from which it was impossible to wake up from. Tiamat took the form of a massive primordial sea dragon and formed an army to deal with her children. On the other end, Enki knew that he was no match for the all-powerful goddess. However, his son, Marduk, who inherited his powers from Enki as well as the other powers from the other gods, could definitely destroy her. As soon as Marduk was born, Enki recognized his superior powers and knew that he was the only one capable of defeating Tiamat. We will go more in detail about Marduk and the final battle between him and Tiamat in another video, but for now, let's just say that Tiamat lost the battle against Marduk, and that from all the pieces of her slayed body, the world was created. And from that moment and on forward, Marduk became the king of the gods and was worshipped in ancient Mesopotamia, where he became the patron deity of the city of Babylon, which he protects. This,
of course, that's what they tell you, but of course, those are all the fallen ones.
8. Life forms of Tiamat Earth. 19 times 4 equals 76. Lo, your planet Earth was within the 18th galaxy called the Milky Way, because of its disc-shaped dense mass of stars, which has millions of stars in light. The sun's stars and the reflected light of the moon from the sun produced a much-needed illumination for the Earth. One takes up where the other leaves off. Yet, this is only made possible by the motion of these heavenly bodies. It will take 30,000 years to go from Earth through the Milky Way at Earth's speed. Each individual conceived has a zero-time reference from the moment of inception, the moment or incident, in pure and holy darkness, before cause or effect, before right and wrong, good and evil, before chaos and conception, process or growth. In the unpure and unholy light of this world, where there is will, good and evil things happening, that point is real time in each individual's existence. In the physical world, from conception is fate time. You exist in what's called set time. You set the time from life to death. It all exists before you and will exist after you. You in your life is only a short space in real time, which exists in all when the light of life is cut on. It begins real time, yet existence already was in pure darkness, and under set time is each individual's real time existence, their point of origin. Alien else time does not have a then, only a now. Whereas each individual is at the point of now and looks back to multiple days and looks forward to multiple days. Thus, on both sides.
Now that guy, listen, is one of the fallen ones they just showed you. That's not the Most High. The Most High don't have a body. And the devil dwells in the body. Some people say King David's supposed to come back. And the Bible says that. We'll see. I don't know.
To the present and by past and future. Nibiru is capable of traveling the distance from point to point, or through space and time interdimensionally. It can go through time, future or past, without interfering with the principle of now or then. Everything is calculated by the speed of light, insofar as everything sums up to things when the light came on. For instance, when you grab the light switch, you are at the point of hydrogen. When you click the light switch, you are at the point of helium, and both hydrogen and helium burning gives you the light of the sun. When beams enter into our planet, they travel interdimensionally, using real time, and that's why they can pop up any time within our zero time or fake time. Zero time is the first time for each individual as they come into this world, while being born in real time. If humans were to try and travel past the speed of light, their G-force would cause them to explode. They would have to learn to travel at the speed of light and controlling the G-force. That is, the forces that affect the body as it escalates in speed in relation to how 1 G affects the body per second. A G is a unit of acceleration equal to the acceleration caused by gravity at the Earth's surface, about 33 feet per second. The Milky Way is a spiral galaxy and is inside of the universe and is very minute. The light from the sun comes to the Earth. Light travels from the sun in 8 minutes and approximately 20 seconds, some say 4 minutes. Your universe contains 19 galaxies. There are 1 billion other galaxies. The distances in your universe reach up to 26 billion light years. Your universe is the smallest and innermost of the 7 universes, which are part of the Galactical Federation of 19 galaxies. As the universe increases, the universes get larger and larger. Your mind cannot comprehend the circumference of the universe. It is unimaginable to you while in your body. The word that best describes it is infinity. The universe doesn't end. You're merely limited by your imagination. My child, for a time it was hard for you to understand the very beginning of your existence. It was difficult for you to accept that you were meant to evolve from intelligent amoeba, which are single-celled organisms with a definite nucleus that move by way of a pseudopod or false foot. A pseudopod is a temporary projection of the cytoplasm of certain cells, such as phagocytes, or certain unicellular organisms, especially amoebas, that serve in locomotion and phagocytosis. The word amoeba is from New Latin genus name, from Greek amoebi, change, from amoebon to change, and fungi, which are single-celled or multicellular organisms that excrete enzymes that actually dissolve their food, then absorb their food through their cellular walls. However, this was your beginning, a beginning unknown to Hummings. Thus, as you read this tablet, you will have a great understanding of how you became who and what you are today. The first kind of life forms on this planet were the evolution of the amoeba, fungi, and algae that live underwater and evolved onto land, which were transplanted here.
The spirit of truth put your head, don't matter how he did it, the spirit of truth put your head, that's all that matters, okay? They always try to take credit for the spirit of truth. They can't take the credit. Credit goes to the spirit of truth. The spirit of truth is the one that made it.
Forming solids in a molten crust. The exposure of ultraviolet rays from the sun caused these gases to form simple organic molecules from things here. These began to form larger molecules until protein was formed. It was this formation which ultimately resulted in a prototype of the living cell, which occurred 46 trillion years ago. Bear in mind that these chain reactions did not occur by blind chance, but only by the will of the Most High Anu. The stage after the creation of the first cell took place in the lab of Shinti, where the breath of life is breathed, which is located on Lathu, Mars. This cell or cells was then placed inside the Vulcan deity of Dolphin. Dolphins are members of the most intelligent group of animals living in the sea. However, what many people don't know is dolphins are actually small whales that range in length from 4 to 12 feet. The word dolphin comes from the Greek delphis, meaning womb, because of its shape, and it was the womb of the transplant for the human cell. Unlike many animals, dolphins voluntarily associate with humans. The common dolphin appeared in ancient Greek and Roman mythology. The Greeks considered the dolphin sacred to the god Apollo. Dolphins have very highly developed senses such as sight, which they are able to see up to 50 feet away. Touch, responding to the lightest touch of a finger. Smell and taste are also two of their senses which aren't as developed. Yet dolphins do have taste buds. Dolphins have an excellent sense of hearing and is one of their most important senses of all. Yet they have no outer ear and can see with sound. This is known as echolocation. When sounds are sent out from an organ in the dolphin's head, they strike objects and bounce back. The direction of these echoes and the time it takes them to return tells the direction and distance of the objects. These first cells in Shinti were transplanted and transported into the seas of this planet. This transportation involved the development of the first animals 24 billion years ago. These were single-cell organisms called protozoa. The simplest of this group is the amoeba, a small mass of transparent protoplasm which does not even have a definite shape or cell wall. The first single-celled animal to originate was the amoeba, which is found in water or moist soil and reproduces asexually. This means they reproduce alone, they don't need a partner. Fungus arose from this single-celled organism and played an important role in nature. They break down the bodies of dead organisms into chemical substances that can be used by other organisms. Fungi live as parasites and reproduce either sexually or asexually. The simplest particle of life is H1 hydrogen. What is smaller than that is a quark, of which atoms are composed. The atom is the smallest unit of an element that retains all of the element's properties. All things are made of atoms, which are composed of quarks, and even smaller called exotic mesons or biaps, such as protons, units of positive electricity, neutrons, units of neutral electricity, and electrons, electrically negative parts of the atom, to name a few, which are made of zeeds or zeals. Together, these form a specific pattern. The zeal is the smallest part of any substance. This is called quantum physics, my child, the doorway to reality. The atom is too small to be seen, even with the most powerful electron microscope. Yet all that is in parts, and is part of existence. The average diameter of an atom is approximately 1 to 1 millionth of an inch. At the center of an atom is a small particle called a quark, the father of energy, which in itself was produced by the mother of all energy, biaps, as in the cells beneath the cell or in the DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Then there is the nucleus, a dense cluster of protons and neutrons on the outside of a quark. Why do we refer to it as the mother? The mother mitochondria, located on the Y chromosome, is the male equivalent to the mitochondrial DNA called yak DNA. This is the same as when a female is pregnant with a male child, only without the male sperm, as in a so-called asexual cell splitting into a daughter. This practice of splitting and parting and becoming individual life forms is only found in the female or mother. So in actuality, asexual cells are really F-sexual cells, fulfilling sexuality. The word mitochondria is from the Greek mitos, meaning walk, flow, and the Greek chondrion, the diminutive of chondros, from grain or granule. Mitochondria are the tiny bodies within a cell that are responsible for the production of energy through the breakdown of sugars. The mitochondrial DNA is in the female, which produces the male, and so is your original hermaphrodite, which comes from Hermaphroditus, the son of Hermes, who is the son of Zeus and Maya, and Aphrodite, the daughter of Uranus. When you look at the word phonetically, you see her, as in a three-letter prefix, and her is always identified with she, or the female gender, as in most hermaphrodite cases, yet it includes male strands that create Y chromosomes. Now, the very word her is from Middle English, from Old English higher. Important derivatives are he, him, his, her, it, here, hence. Note that her is inclusive of he in its root meaning. He is from Middle English, from Old English he. The pronouns he, him, and his are male person or animal. So he is always identified with the male factor, when her, on the other hand, is inclusive with male and female factors, making her the mother. M equals mitochondria, and add other, and you get the word mother. Together, the protons which have a positive charge and neutrons which have no charge are called nucleons. Outside spinning around the nucleus in orbits are electrons, which have a negative charge that makes up what is called the shell of the atom. All atoms vary in the amount of protons, electrons, and neutrons according to the elements to which they belong. In reality, no atom has a definite size in space and time. However, it gets its form from its surrounding electrons. Atoms are building blocks from which molecules are made, and a molecule is the smallest unit of a pure substance that can exist independently and exhibit all the properties of substance: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur. These gases formed into simple organic molecules, at which time these organic molecules began to form larger and larger molecules until protein was formed. Listen, my child, concerning the recreation of the planet Earth. It was this formation which ultimately resulted in a prototype of the living organism. The stage after the creation of the first cell involved the development of the first animals, which is called a protozoa, which comes from the Greek proto, first in time, and zoa, from zoea, meaning animals. When producing, the protozoa splits into two separate animals or cells, just as, at birth, the mother splits in two beings. Over a period of 19 million Earth years of time, these animals multiplied and diversified, and evoluted into many types of creatures and animal life forms. The protozoa were originally transported and planted here on this planet Earth by beings from the planet Risk, the Anunnaki, called the Elohim. And do not forget, my child, the conditions of your planet had to be right. These first atoms were made up of very simple combinations with each other, but sunlight contains energy, and this energy forced atoms into more complicated combinations until small cells formed. This also happened on many other planets with the same chemicals and temperatures. So, there is life on many other planets. The key is water.
So the fallen ones was making outside nations.
In which is life as bacteria. There are intelligent bacteria that help Earthlings digest their food and many other positive things. There are also intelligent bacteria that hurt Earthlings. Intelligent bacteria do things such as make you sick and cause diseases in humans, animals and plants. In humans they cause diseases such as syphilis, meaning a friend of the swine, leprosy, from Middle English from leper, leprosy from Old French from Latin lepra, from Greek lepros, scaly from lepis, lepros meaning scale, and pneumonia from pneumon, meaning lung, and is an inflammatory disease of the lung, to name a few. Most of these diseases came to this planet from other planets, some of which are in your solar system, and others that are far beyond your knowledge. Many are diseases of your body. In fact, some live on your body, like streptococcus and herpes, just to name two of the many thousands. You shall have knowledge, for in this tablet are facts beyond any doubt. Like many other simple organisms, bacteria can multiply by asexual reproduction or by binary fission, the splitting of an adult cell into two separate parts and budding, where an outgrowth